It's Thursday, 13 April, no, May 15th, and this is Florentine, one of the neighborhoods of Tel Aviv. It's like out the center, but it's full with live students, like the Soho. But it's not a regular Thursday, although you can see a lot of people here drinking and enjoying Coca-Cola. Yeah, it's like advertising for the taste of life. You can see less people here. Less people because we do have some problems in Israel now, together with not the Palestinians, with the terror organizations of the Palestinians. Then I don't know if I can talk about it, but what I'm saying is what I'm feeling here. Usually there's a lot of music here, people are drinking, eating, but as I told you, it's not a regular day. Let's start with that. I'm not sure that the Palestinians and the Israelis want war. The best way is to talk. The question is to talk with whom? There are two main parties in Palestine. First one is PLO, which is weak, just like our government in Israel. The second one are terrorists, and that's the Hamas. Just like you cannot talk with ISIS or Al-Qaeda because their logic is different than the Western way of thinking, it's almost impossible to talk with them. Israel made some mistakes in Ramadan time. It's not that we are angels, we are not. But Hamas took it as an opportunity to talk. And for them, the way to talk is to kill. To send some missiles to Israel, and send more than 2,000, 3,000 missiles to Israel. Yesterday and the day before, we woke up twice. In Tel Aviv, we went into the shelter, and it's not that they're frightening us, as you can see, it's not, but the idea that it hurts, we send missiles to civil places, just to destroy houses without any reason, to destroy life of people without any reason, that is not acceptable in Israel. Questions that I'm getting, a lot of them sadly from, well, it's not sadly, but it's messages from the Muslim society in the world, is to free Palestine. I'm for it as well. I don't mind to live next to Palestine, but I think the Palestinians, what they need to do, especially in Gaza, and Gaza it's different than the West Bank, at least for now, to set them free from themselves. And when I'm saying themselves, I'm talking about the terror way of living. If they will stop Hamas from doing it, but it's like to ask the Russians to stop Stalin from doing it. It's almost impossible, mainly because it's they're too strong, and when you're talking with terror, it's terror from inside and outside. I forgot to mention that we are at Levinsky Street, which is all the spices and the herbs market, and it's supposed to be full, but it's full with people, but now it's empty. Questions, let's see. Then I would be very happy to free Palestine, but it's so sad to say, if the way to free Palestine is by killing the Israelis, then this is not the way. I won't let it happen. And every moment we can hear the siren here. Still, I'm going out with my daughter, my best friends, to eat at 7 p.m. Then I'm not talking to the Hamas. try not to destroy that meal, because tomorrow Ronit and Leo goes to the Dead Sea for a nice vacation, and I'm going to be in my house in Tel Aviv. The sky's blue, the weather is amazing. I was supposed to be in Jerusalem now. This is the Ascension Day. I wanted to celebrate with the Christians, but they cancel everything because of the situation, which is sad for me. Then happy Ascension Day if you are Christians. Let's see what the Muslims, mainly the Muslims, well, not only the Muslims. I was talking with a lot of Pakistanis, and it's amazed me that some of them are so nice and clever, and actually they're talking. Because usually I'm getting that, you know, F Israel, Free Palestine, you know, those things that are meaningless. But to talk is the best way. Then he didn't know about Israel. He didn't know about the Palestinians. For them, Israel was it's a country that he invented in 1967, which is totally wrong. The Jews are here, let's say, 3,000 years ago. It's strange for the Muslims to understand that King David, for the Muslims, it's a prophet, Abraham, and all the rest of the prophets, and even Jesus were Jews. Our Bible, the Jewish Bible, that 99.9999% of the Muslims never read, is about Israel. Then to say that we came to Israel only in 1967, that is a huge mistake. Another mistake is Palestine. For so many Muslims and for so many Christians, Palestine was a state, Arabic state. Then let's change that version as well. Palestine was never a state. Palestine is a name that the Romans gave to Israel when they punished Israel, and listen carefully, 2nd century by Adrian. Then from that moment it never been a country. It was controlled by so many people, and most of the people who've been in Palestine were Jews. Another thing that I want you to understand, that if they're talking, the Palestinians talking about Palestine as an Arabic country, they must include my mother, and Ronit's mother, and so many others, Jewish mothers and fathers and children that were born in Palestine, Israel, at the time of the British. Then in that case, Palestine was never a country. Palestine was never Arabic country or Muslim country. It was a region in so many countries that occupied Israel. For example, the Ottomans did it for 400 years. The British did it from 1917 until 1948. And no one say that Palestine is a British state. And until now, Palestine as a country never exists. Why it never exists? Not because of Israel, because Israel never occupied Palestine, which is another thing that you must understand. Never, not even one day. Palestine, in 1948, United Nations declared 2 countries, Palestine and Israel. And before that, let me tell you that Israel was supposed to be, according to the British, Israel, so including Jordan was part of Israel as well. And then slowly they cut it into pieces, the British and the French. They gave a little bit to Syria, a little bit to the Jordanians, to the Hashemite family, and Lebanon as well. Then all of those countries, modern countries, are new, just like Israel. In 1948, the United Nations declared 2 countries when they cut what left from Israel into 2, Palestine and Israel. Then from 1948 we expected to see two countries that lives next to each other, two neighbors, Israel and Palestine. But at the same day that we declare of our independence in 1948, all the Arab countries invented into Israel. And the result of that is, the result of that is that Palestine as a country never exists. The only one who occupied Palestine, the only countries, were Jordan and Egypt. Jordan occupied Palestine, the West Bank, and changed the name from Palestine to the West Bank. And if you want to blame someone from the non-existence of Palestine, blame the Jordanians. And what about the Egyptian? The Egyptian occupied Gaza Strip. Now the connection between Gaza Strip and the West Bank, which is two different parts of Palestine, is artificial as well. The Gaza people are more close to the Egyptian. The West Bank are more close to Jordan. If you're talking about the independence of Israel, not far away from here, they declare of the independence in 1948, and from that moment, the war begins from between Israel and the Muslim world, which is not so true because actually there were riots against the Jews in so many places, and the Muslims in Israel, Palestine killed a lot of Jews, like they are doing it now, which is another problem. Then in that matter, I'm not against two countries. I am from the left party of Israel, which tells us that in a way I'm for that state. And I'm guiding in Palestine, and I'm doing it with so many groups. The one who actually went with me to visit Bethlehem, you know that I never guided by myself, although I do have a permit from the Palestinians and from the Israelis to do that, because I believe that in the state of Palestine, a Palestinian tour guide must guide you. Then in that matter, two different countries might live next to each other. The main problem is a religion problem, not a land problem. It's not about inch here and inch there. The problem is the Temple Mount or Al-Aqsa. There are two ways to see it: the history way and reality. The history way is that according to the Jews who've been here like 1,000 years before the Muslims, that is the beginning of the foundation of Mother Earth. And I will make it short, it's the house of God. Today, the house of God belongs to the Arabs. You can say Palestinians, you can say the Muslim world. It's the third important place for them. According to them, Islam, Muhammad ascended into heaven from there to meet God himself, who gave him the 5 prayers of a day. Then in that case, it's holy for the Muslims too. According to the Israeli law, we are not owning holy sites. Holy sites belong to the people who worship it. A church belongs to the Christians, not to Israel. A mosque belongs to the Muslims, not to Israel. Wait a minute, they were supposed to stop and they did it. And synagogue belongs to the Jews, not to Israel. Then in that matter, If we want to destroy the Muslim side of Al-Aqsa, we can do that in less than 2 minutes. But according to the law, we cannot, and we are not going to do that. Then all those people who actually sent their disciples to protect the Temple Mount, I wanted to use the word be, but this is not wrong. This is wrong. This is not true. Again, if we want to destroy the Temple Mount, Al-Aqsa, the Dome of the Rock, and all the Muslim sites, we can do that in 1 minute. But we didn't. From 1967, that we came back to Jerusalem, we kept that law. And about Jerusalem itself, according to United Nations, Jerusalem, the old city, is not part of Palestine, not part of Israel. But remember, the Jordanians conquered Israel. Actually, they wanted to conquer Israel, but they occupied Palestine, future Palestine, and they did it to Jerusalem. Then the United Nations is, as we know, weak, and that place until 1967 became to be part of Jordan. Israelis never been there before. I mean, not before, from 1948 until 1967. In 1967, few of the countries, Muslim countries, tried to do that again, to occupy Israel. And they didn't. What they actually did is that we enter back to Jerusalem, and the West Bank and Gaza Strip became part of Israel, not because we wanted it, mainly because the Jordanians said we want everything, but we don't want the West Bank. The only thing that they asked is to control the Temple Mount, Al-Aqsa. Again, the Egyptians got back Sinai, which is twice bigger than Israel, but they didn't ask for Gaza. The border between Gaza and Israel and Egypt is quite busy. The Egyptians did one thing, which is excellent for them. They just close it. They're controlling who enters, who is not, and usually it's closed. Everything that the Palestinians getting, including material for their rockets, is from Israel. Qatar gives the Palestinian money every month, and the money goes through Israel. Then in that case, if you want to free Palestine, just stop the terror organizations, and not only Hamas, Jihad Islamic, which belongs to the Iranic people. Stop them and that's it. And deal with the Hezbollah. This is the story in Israel, and I think now you know more about it. If you want to know more, please don't write, those sentences that I actually won't be able to use, like Free Palestine again, because I told you, I want to free Palestine from the terrorist organization, and then they might have their own land. But now, there's no option for that. That's why Mr. Netanyahu, which I'm against him, said it's not the time to stop that war. We must destroy as much as we can the institute of the Hamas. If our innocent people are dying, it's not because we wanted it. Not like the Hamas that sends rockets to kill people just for that. And if you do have a question, please ask me. What can I say? It's Eid al-Fitr, then for the Muslims, it's Ascension Day, and soon it's going to be Shavuot for the Jews. Then I hope that everyone will enjoy their life here. And guess what? I found my brother and friends here then I'm going to drink coffee with them. See you in my next video. Bye bye.